Are you in a place in your relationship with your partner where you feel things can't work out because of the heat around you? You are going through a period of test with God. It is not over. Tests are the very events that make us stronger in commitment and trust, which are the very ingredients needed in successful communication in marriage. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 11 says, "Now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby." Sometimes, especially in relationships, it seems as if life doesn't make sense. Sometimes we feel the heat of the relationship and begin to doubt if we can go further to marry our spouse. But it is just a test from God. Before the beginning of every marriage comes repeated disagreements as a sign that both of you are in a period of test with God, and it is for both of you to take advantage of these tests from God and win. It is so true that both spouses cannot always agree on all things and every time, but when disagreements, like disagreements of opinions and what is to be allowed around your space, become repeated, this is a sure sign that both of you are in a test with God, and whether you pass this test will determine if both of you will marry and work out fine. Everyone has their opinion on everything, and that is simply human. Sometimes you and your partner might have a different opinion on welcoming people into your conversation. Your spouse might like relating and communicating your secrets to outer space, and you might hate that from your heart. That can cause fight and misunderstanding. That can be a channel of offense, but it is God testing if you will walk in love. What shows there is life and progress in a working relationship is the test of forgiveness when misunderstood and offended. Especially when it is a relationship. It is a period of training for her and her spouse in a relationship. It is a test to see if you or your spouse-to-be will give room to the enemy to take offense or not. Misunderstandings and disagreements will train both of you to realize that you two are on the same team, and also make you realize that you should operate from the perspective of we-ness, not me-ness. The test of offense will make you and train both of you to walk in honor of each other. When there are repeated disagreements and misunderstandings between you and your partner, it is a sign that you are under a test. So take advantage of this and yield to God's test, because this will make you stronger and more patient with your spouse. No one can make unity in everything. What God tells us to do is to keep the unity we have already. Ephesians chapter 4 verses 2 to 3 tells us, "With all lowliness and meekness, with long-suffering, forbearing one another in love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace." Many break up from God's appointed relationships for them under this test, and later regret their actions. It is a test that reveals your loyalty to each other and your heart of love for your partner. It is one thing to confess your love for someone. Anyone can say, "I love you." But it is this test that proves your confession to each other. Even God in His Word says that faith without works is dead. This test with God will make you patient and make you stronger in your heart to handle any challenge in your marriage. This test will make you trust only God to sustain your relationship. You will realize that you cannot set out to change anyone. You can only watch and pray to God for your partner to change for the good, as by encouraging them to achieve their goal in life or adopt a healthier lifestyle. You will realize through misunderstandings and disagreements that it's unfair and unrealistic to force your partner to change, but you just have to agree even when you do not agree, because you will have tried and tried to prove a point, but it always gets harder to break through. As Amos chapter 3 verse 3 says, "Can two walk together except they are agreed?" This is a strong sign that both of you are in a period of test before marriage, so does not give up yet in those disagreements. It is God's way of refining you to be the perfect husband or wife for your spouse in the future. Jealousy is the very sponsor of bitterness that destroys relationships. This test comes to break both of you apart, but God allows it to enlarge your heart and walk in love regardless. Many ask why there are a lot of divisions and breakages in many homes today. It is because both the spouses before marriage never passed this test and submitted to this test. Sometimes we see cases of both partners seeing the other person talking to the opposite sex and begin to assume a lot of things and get angry. Jealousy is a sign of weakness because if both of you have known each other for so long, you will know what they can do and what they cannot do. Jealousy reveals if both of you stay along with each other. Jealousy grieves God, and if you are walking in God's plan for your marriage, you will reject it from your heart and focus on the future ahead and not on your assumptions. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 31 to 32 encourages us that, "Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be ye kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you." God puts you under this test to reveal what is hidden in your heart concerning your partner. There is no test in your relationship with your partner that is below your power to pass if only you trust in God. It might not come easy, but when you trust in God, everything will be settled. James chapter 3 verses 14 to 16 says, "But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not, and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work." When both of you get jealous of each other, especially when you now become insecure, that you can't breathe when they are talking to someone else, it is a sure sign that both of you are going through a period of test before marriage. Someone said that bitterness is like putting poison into your mouth without realizing it. There are times when you will be tested to get jealous of each other, to build the search for intimacy and time for each other, which is a vital key ingredient of a working marriage. When you begin to feel insecure about every person your partner is with, it is a sign of a period of test with God before your marriage. Every married spouse will tell you that a few months before their marriage, there were a lot of times where they are tested to get bitter and offended, but they had to just love each other unconditionally. God says, "Love endures all things and believes the best of each other." So when God allows this test of insecurity and jealousy, accept that it is for your good and pass it. You must not walk by sight or what you assume or feel, but by faith in God, that your partner means right in their communication with others. Many times, jealousy is just a manifestation of pride, so we will allow this test to train you. There is always enough room for you in your marriage. If this person is yours, and God has appointed them for you, both of you will pass this test and grow stronger in intimacy. Hebrews chapter 12, verses 6 and 10 tells us, "For whom the Lord loveth he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. Now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby." There's always a refresh when both of you can still stick to each other after these hard times. God has a promise for you when you pass this test, which is that He will strengthen, establish, and settle in marriage.